My best friend said my husband was probably just stressed about working late. Then her husband asked me if I knew about them. I was standing in my kitchen when Philip called. We'd been neighbors with him and Veronica for 6 years. Our kids played together. We did barbecues every Sunday. His voice sounded strange, tight. "Can you come over? Alone?" I walked across the street, confused. Philip answered the door looking like he hadn't slept in days. He led me to his kitchen table where his laptop sat open. Security camera footage, time-stamped from last Tuesday. The video showed my husband's car pulling into Veronica's driveway at 1 p.m., him using a key to let himself in. The timestamp showed him leaving 4 hours later, adjusting his tie. "There's more," Philip said quietly. He showed me receipts, hotel rooms, restaurants I'd never been to, jewelry I'd never received, all on our joint credit card that I never checked because I trusted him. Every Tuesday and Thursday for 8 months while I thought he was working late on the Henderson account. My hands went numb. "Where's Veronica?" "At your house," he said, comforting your husband about his stressful job. The irony hit me like cold water. Just yesterday, I'd cried to her about feeling distant from my husband. She'd hugged me, made me tea, and said he was probably just overwhelmed at work. She'd looked me in the eyes and lied. Then she'd gone home and texted him about meeting at the Riverside Inn. Philip showed me the message. I drove home in a daze. Through my kitchen window, I could see them sitting at my table, my husband's hand covering hers, both their wedding rings clearly visible. When I walked in, they jumped apart like teenagers caught sneaking out. "We need to talk," I said calmly. Veronica's face went pale. "I should go." "No," I said. "Stay. I think we should all talk about this together." My husband stood up. "About what?" I pulled out my phone, opened the cloud folder Philip had shared with me. Months of evidence, videos, receipts, text message screenshots that Philip had recovered from Veronica's iPad. I placed the phone on the table between them. "About how stressed you've been," I said. "Working so hard. All those late nights." The silence stretched. Veronica grabbed her purse. "This isn't what it looks like. It looks like you've been sleeping with my husband while giving me marriage advice." My voice stayed steady. "It looks like you've been using my house key, the one I gave you for emergencies, to coordinate your schedules." My husband's face changed. The guilt disappeared, replaced by something colder. "If you'd been more supportive, maybe I wouldn't have needed—" "Philip's filing for divorce," I interrupted. "He's got a lawyer, a good one, and he's asked me to be his witness since apparently our security cameras have been documenting your comings and goings for months." Veronica's composure cracked. "You can't do that. Our kids should have thought about that before," I said. What I didn't tell them was what else Philip had found. The texts about leaving both of us once the timing was right. The plans they'd made. The apartment they'd already put a deposit on using money from a joint account Veronica had hidden from Philip. Or that my husband had been padding his expense reports to funnel money into a separate account. Philip's forensic accountant had traced every dollar. I also didn't mention that Veronica had been the one who suggested I start taking sleeping pills for my anxiety. The same anxiety she was causing. The pills that made me sleep so deeply, I never heard my husband leaving our bed at 2 a.m. to text her from the garage. My husband tried a different approach. "Look, we can work this out. We don't need to involve lawyers and make this ugly." "It's already ugly," I said. "You made it ugly 8 months ago." Veronica stood up. "I'm leaving." "Philip's waiting outside," I said. "He wanted to see your reaction in person when you realized we both know." She froze. Through the window, we could all see Philip's car parked in my driveway. He was just sitting there, watching. "You planned this," my husband said. "No," I corrected. "You planned this." I just stopped being blind to it. That night, after they both left, I sat at my kitchen table going through the evidence Philip had compiled. It was worse than I'd thought. The affair had started at our New Year's party. I'd been 7 months pregnant with our second child, exhausted and uncomfortable. I'd gone to bed early. The security footage showed my husband and Veronica talking in our garage, then kissing, then more. I'd had our daughter in February. My husband had missed the birth because of an emergency at work, except there was no emergency. The phone records showed 14 calls to Veronica that night. While I was alone in the delivery room, he was parked outside her house, on the phone, deciding whether to come at all. He'd arrived 2 hours after our daughter was born. I'd been so relieved to see him that I'd cried. He'd held our newborn and apologized for missing it, said he felt terrible. The whole time, his phone kept buzzing with texts from Veronica. I found photos on the cloud account. Dozens of them. Them at hotels I recognized from our credit card statements, wearing clothes I'd never seen. In one photo, he was wearing a watch I'd never bought him. In another, she had on a bracelet that looked expensive. The financial records showed everything. He'd opened a credit card in just his name. Over $31,000 in charges. Hotels, jewelry, dinners, weekend trips. He'd even used it to rent the apartment they were planning to move into. The lease started in 6 weeks. Philip had screenshots of their text conversations. They talked about us like we were obstacles to get around. Veronica called me the crying friend and complained about having to comfort me. My husband called Philip clueless and joked about how easy it was to fool him. In one particularly cruel exchange, I'd sent Veronica a photo of a dress I was thinking of buying for our anniversary dinner. She'd told me it looked beautiful. Then she'd screenshotted it and sent it to my husband with the caption, "Look what the sad wife wants to wear to impress you." His response was a laughing emoji. That anniversary dinner never happened. My husband had canceled last minute, said he had to work. I'd cried myself to sleep that night. Veronica had texted me the next morning asking how the dinner went. I told her he'd canceled. She'd sent back sad face emojis and said she was sorry. Then she'd met him at the Riverside Inn that afternoon. They'd planned the whole thing. Wait until both divorces were final. Split assets with us. Then move in together and start fresh. They'd even discussed which furniture from our houses they'd keep. I found a text where Veronica said she wanted my dining room table, the one my grandmother had left me. My husband had agreed, said it would look good in their new place. I couldn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about all the times I'd confided in Veronica, about my marriage problems, my fears that my husband was distant. She'd listened, hugged me, told me it was just a phase. Then she'd gone home and laughed about it with him. The next morning, my husband acted like nothing had happened. He made coffee, asked if I wanted breakfast. When I didn't respond, he sighed. Are we really going to do this the hard way? There's a hard way? I asked. We could handle this like adults, he said. Quick divorce, split everything fairly, stay civil for the kids. Like you and Veronica planned? He had the audacity to look surprised. How did you? Philip found all your texts, I said. Every single one. His face went white. He can't use those in court. Actually, he can, I said. I called a lawyer yesterday. Turns out when you use marital funds for an affair, it affects asset division. And when you steal from your company to fund that affair, well, that's a whole different problem. I watched him process this. The stolen money from his expense reports. I hadn't mentioned that yet. I don't know what you're talking about, he said carefully. The forensic accountant found $18,000 in false expense reports over the past 8 months, I said. Hotel rooms you claimed were business trips. Dinners you said were client meetings. Your company's HR already has the report. Philip made sure of that. The color drained from his face completely. You're trying to get me fired? I'm not doing anything, I said. You did this. Every fake receipt, every padded expense report. That's all you. He slammed his coffee mug down. This is insane. You're ruining everything over a mistake. 8 months isn't a mistake, I said. It's a choice. You made it every single day. He left for work without another word. I sat there, staring at my cold coffee, wondering how I'd missed all the signs. But then I started remembering things. Small moments that hadn't made sense at the time. The way he'd started showering as soon as he got home from work, every single night. Even on days when he claimed he hadn't done anything physical. How he'd changed his phone password. Said it was for security after someone at work got hacked. But he'd never changed it before in 11 years of marriage. The nights he'd stay up late on his laptop typing away. When I'd ask what he was working on, he'd close the screen. Just boring work stuff. The new cologne. The fresh haircuts every 2 weeks instead of monthly. The gym membership he'd suddenly wanted. Just trying to stay healthy, he'd said. I'd believed every lie because I'd wanted to. Because questioning him felt like not trusting him. And I'd been raised to believe that doubt was the real problem in marriage. My phone rang. Philip, how are you holding up? He asked. I've been better. I'm meeting with my lawyer at 10:00 a.m., he said. She wants to know if you're willing to give a deposition. About what I saw yesterday? About all of it, he said. The relationship between our families. How much time they spent together. What Veronica told you about your marriage. It all helps establish the timeline and the deception. I'll do it, I said. There's something else, Philip said quietly. The accountant found another account. In Veronica's name only. $43,000. We've been married 12 years and I never knew it existed. The number hit me. That was more than we had in our savings account. More than I'd thought Veronica had access to. Where did it come from? I asked. That's the thing, Philip said. Some of it's from her job, but there are deposits that match up exactly with withdrawals from your joint account. Your husband was giving her money. Thousands at a time. My stomach turned. I pulled up our bank statements on my phone, started scrolling through months of transactions. There they were. Withdrawals marked cash. $2,000 here, $2,500 there. Always on Tuesdays or Thursdays. The same days he'd been seeing her. Over 8 months, he'd given her $27,000 of our money. Money I thought was going toward bills, toward our kids' college funds, toward our life. I have to go, I told Philip. I called my bank, had them freeze our joint account. Then I transferred half of what was left into an account in just my name. The banker didn't ask questions when I explained I was getting divorced. They'd heard it before. My husband called 20 minutes later, screaming, "What the hell did you do?" My card was declined at the gas station. I protected our assets, I said calmly. Half is yours, half is mine. That's how divorce works. You can't just freeze our account. I can and I did, I said. My lawyer advised it. Said it was smart to secure funds before you tried to hide more money. I'm not hiding anything. Really? I said. What about the $27,000 you gave Veronica? Silence. Yeah, I said. Philip's accountant found everything. Every dollar you stole from our family to fund your girlfriend. It wasn't stealing, he sputtered. It was our money. Exactly, I said. Our money. That you gave to another woman without telling me. While I was cutting coupons and buying generic brands to save money for our kids' future. I hung up. The next few days were a blur. I met with a lawyer, filed for divorce, started the process of separating our lives. My lawyer was a woman in her 50s named Patricia who'd been practicing family law for 26 years. I've seen worse, she said after reviewing everything, but not much worse. She explained how the money would work, the asset division, the fact that my husband's affair and financial deception would likely work in my favor, the custody arrangements for our 2 kids. What about the money he gave Veronica? I asked. We'll petition to have it counted as marital waste, Patricia said. He used marital funds for an extramarital affair. The judge won't look favorably on that. Can we get it back? Maybe some of it, she said, but don't count on all of it. These things get complicated. That night, Veronica showed up at my door. Her eyes were red like she'd been crying for hours. Can we talk? She asked. No, I said and started to close the door. She stuck her foot in the doorway. Please, just give me 5 minutes. You don't deserve 5 seconds, I said. I know I messed up, she said, but I never meant to hurt you. The audacity. I stared at her. You never meant to hurt me? I repeated slowly. You slept with my husband for 8 months. You sat in my kitchen and gave me marriage advice while actively destroying my marriage. You used the key I gave you for emergencies to sneak around. You took $27,000 of my money, but you never meant to hurt me? It just happened, she said weakly. Nothing just happens, I said. You made choices. Every single time you texted him, every time you met him at a hotel, every time you lied to my face, those were choices. I was lonely, she said. Philip works all the time. I felt invisible. So you decided to make me invisible instead, I said. You know what I was doing while you were sleeping with my husband. I was taking care of our kids. I was making dinners for your family when you said you were too busy. I was driving your daughter to dance class because you had appointments. Appointments that were actually hotel rooms with my husband. Her face crumpled. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this, I said. Sorry doesn't give me back the time, the trust, the friendship I thought we had. What can I do? She asked. Nothing, I said. There's nothing you can do. You and my husband deserve each other. You're both liars who put yourselves first. You're both willing to destroy families for what you want. You're both selfish and cruel. I pulled her foot out of my doorway and shut the door in her face. Through the window, I watched her stand there for a long moment. Then she walked back to her house. Philip's car was in the driveway. I wondered what that conversation would be like. My phone buzzed. A text from my husband. We need to talk about the kids. I didn't respond. Another text. You can't keep them from me. Still didn't respond. A third text. My lawyer says you're being unreasonable. I blocked his number. Anything important could go through the lawyers. The next week, my husband moved out, packed his things while I was at work and the kids were at school. He took his clothes, his electronics, and apparently some things that weren't his. My grandmother's watch was missing from my jewelry box, an antique picture frame from my parents. Small, valuable things I wouldn't notice right away. I documented everything, took photos, sent them to Patricia. File a police report, she said. For a watch and a picture frame? For theft, she said. He doesn't get to take things that aren't his just because he's angry. I filed the report. The officer who took my statement looked tired. Divorce? He asked. How'd you guess? See it all the time, he said. People think they can take whatever they want when they're mad. But property is property. If it's yours and he took it, that's theft. 2 days later, my husband returned the items, left them on the porch with no note. Philip called me one afternoon. Veronica's moving out this weekend. Her sister's coming to help. How are you doing? I asked. Better than I expected, he said. Turns out I'm angrier than I am sad. I understood that. The sadness would come later. Right now, there was just rage at the betrayal, at the lies, at the sheer disrespect of it all. My lawyer says your deposition was really helpful, Philip said. Good, I said. She asked if you'd be willing to testify if it goes to trial. It won't go to trial, I said. Veronica won't want all of this coming out in court. Her parents don't even know about the affair yet. How do you know that? Because if they knew, they'd already be calling me to apologize, I said. They're old school, morally upright. This would devastate them. Sure enough, 2 days later, Veronica's mother called me. I just found out, she said, her voice shaking. I'm so sorry. I raised her better than this. I know you did, I said. How long has this been going on? 8 months that we know of, I said. She made a sound like she'd been punched. My God, I'm sorry you're finding out this way, I said. Don't apologize to me, she said. You're the victim here, you and your children. We talked for a while. She cried. I cried. She asked if there was anything she could do. Just love your daughter, I said. She's going to need you. What she needs is a good therapist and a reality check, her mother said bitterly. After we hung up, I felt oddly lighter. Veronica's own mother was on my side. That meant something. The divorce moved forward. My husband fought me on everything. Custody, money, property division. He wanted the house. I wanted the house. We both wanted primary custody. His lawyer kept pushing for mediation. Patricia kept refusing. Why? I asked her. Because he wants to negotiate, she said. He wants to make you feel bad and give him more than he deserves. In court, a judge will look at the facts. The affair, the stolen money, the lies, and the judge will side with you. You're sure? Nothing's guaranteed, Patricia said. But yeah, I'm sure. The court date was set for 6 months out. In the meantime, we had temporary orders. I got the house and primary custody. He got the kids every other weekend and 1 night a week. He had to pay temporary support based on our income difference. He was furious about the support payments, kept texting me from different numbers about how unfair it was. I forwarded every message to Patricia. Keep them all, she said. This shows a pattern of harassment. My kids started asking questions. Why was Dad living somewhere else? Why couldn't they see him whenever they wanted? Why was I so sad all the time? I tried to explain in age-appropriate ways. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes. Sometimes families change. It's not their fault. They're loved. Everything will be okay. My son, who was 9, saw right through it. Did Dad do something bad? He asked one night at bedtime. I paused. Patricia had warned me about parental alienation, about saying the wrong thing, but I'd also promised myself I'd never lie to my kids again. Dad made some choices that hurt our family, I said carefully, and sometimes when that happens, people can't live together anymore. Like what choices? Grown-up things, I said. Things that aren't your responsibility to worry about. Was it with Miss Veronica? He asked quietly. My heart stopped. Why would you say that? I saw them once, he said, at the park. When you thought I was at soccer practice, but it got canceled. They were holding hands. Why didn't you tell me? He shrugged. I thought maybe you knew. Adults always know stuff. I held him while he cried, told him it wasn't his fault, that he should have been able to tell me, that I was sorry he'd had to carry that secret. The next day, I told Patricia. She made a note in my file. Child witness to affair. Potential testimony if needed. I hated that my son had become evidence in a legal case. Hated that his childhood had been infected by adult betrayals. 3 months in, something interesting happened. My husband's company fired him. The expense report fraud had caught up with him. They pressed charges. He called me, desperate. I need a character witness. Tell them I'm a good person who made a mistake. I laughed. Actually laughed. You're joking, I said. I could go to jail, he said. You committed fraud, I said. You stole from your company. That's a crime. But I'm the father of your children, he said. That's the only reason I'm not celebrating, I said. Because they'll have to know their father is a criminal. Please, he begged. No, I said, and hung up. He ended up pleading guilty to avoid jail time, got probation and had to pay restitution, lost his professional license, would never work in finance again. Patricia was thrilled. This changes everything for the divorce. His earning potential just tanked. You'll get more in support. He'll get less time with the kids because he'll have to work multiple jobs to pay his legal fees. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I just felt tired. The affair with Veronica ended around this time. According to Philip, she'd started dating someone else, someone with money and a clean record. My husband was suddenly not so appealing when he was broke and facing criminal charges. He spiraled after that, moved into a cheap apartment, started drinking, missed his scheduled times with the kids. When he did show up, he was disheveled, smelled like alcohol. I documented every time, every missed visit, every time he showed up drunk. My daughter, who was 6, started having nightmares. She'd wake up screaming that daddy was gone, and it was her fault. No amount of reassurance helped. I got her into therapy, a kind woman named Dr. Monroe who specialized in children of divorce. Within a few sessions, my daughter admitted she'd heard Veronica and my husband talking once. They said they were going to get married and have a new family, she told Dr. Monroe, without us. The therapist called me in, explained that my daughter had been carrying the fear of abandonment for months, that she'd internalized their plans as a rejection of her. I went home that night and cried until I couldn't breathe. My children had been collateral damage in someone else's selfish choices. They'd been hurt by people who were supposed to protect them. Finally, Patricia filed for an emergency custody modification. We went before a judge on a Tuesday morning. My husband didn't even hire a lawyer, represented himself, rambled about how I'd ruined his life, how none of this was his fault, how I was poisoning the kids against him. The judge listened patiently, then asked him one question. Sir, are you currently intoxicated? My husband blinked. No, Your Honor. Because you smell like you've been drinking, the judge said. I had 1 beer with breakfast, my husband admitted, to calm my nerves. The judge removed his glasses. You had alcohol before a custody hearing? Just 1, my husband said, not seeing the problem. The judge ruled immediately. Suspended his visitation pending completion of a substance abuse evaluation and treatment program. Increased child support. Ordered him to pay my legal fees. My husband just sat there, stunned. As we left the courthouse, he tried to approach me. Patricia stepped between us. Don't, she said firmly. This is all your fault, he told me over her shoulder. No, I said. This is all your fault. Every single bit of it. That was 18 months ago. My husband completed his substance abuse program, got supervised visitation, eventually worked his way back to every other weekend. But the damage was done. Our kids, especially our oldest, wanted less and less to do with him. He lied to you, my son said simply when I asked why. Why would I trust him? I couldn't argue with that logic. Philip and I became genuine friends through all of this. Not romantic. Just 2 people who understood what it felt like to have someone you love betray you completely. His divorce finalized first. Veronica had to pay him support because she made more money. She also had to split her hidden account with him. Philip said it felt like justice. My divorce finalized on a gray Tuesday in November. I stood in the courthouse, signed the papers, and walked out a single woman after 11 years of marriage. That night, I took the kids out for pizza. We celebrated small victories, new beginnings, the end of a horrible chapter. Are you sad? My daughter asked. Sometimes, I said honestly, but mostly I'm relieved. Me too, she said. We don't see Veronica anymore. She moved to a different neighborhood. I heard through mutual friends that her new relationship didn't last, that she's struggling with the reputation she earned, that people whisper about her at PTA meetings and neighborhood gatherings. I don't take pleasure in her downfall, but I don't feel sorry for her either. My ex-husband got a job at a used car dealership, makes a fraction of what he used to, lives in a studio apartment, picks up the kids in a beat-up Honda that smells like cigarettes. Sometimes I think about what my life would be like if I'd never found out. If Philip hadn't called me that day, I'd still be married to a liar, still be friends with a woman who smiled to my face while destroying my life. I'd still be making dinners and doing laundry and believing the lies. I'd be that wife who everyone pitied, but no one told the truth. But I did find out, and I survived it. More than survived. I got the house, primary custody, child support that actually covers what the kids need. I went back to school and finished my degree, got a better job, built a life that's fully mine. My kids are thriving, they're in therapy, working through the betrayal and the changes. They're learning that actions have consequences, that honesty matters, that you can survive hard things and come out stronger. As for me, I learned that I'm stronger than I thought, that I don't need someone who lies to me to be happy. That friendship means nothing if it's not built on truth. I also learned to trust my gut. Those small moments that didn't make sense, they were warning signs. I'll never ignore them again. Someone asked me recently if I'd ever date again. I said maybe someday. But right now, I'm good. I have my kids, my career, my peace. And peace, I've learned, is worth more than any relationship built on lies. Philip texts me sometimes, updates about his life, his kids. We grab coffee occasionally, compare notes on co-parenting with exes who can't be trusted. Last week, he told me Veronica reached out, wanted to apologize, asked if he'd consider reconciliation. What did you say? I asked. I said no, he said. Some things you can't come back from. I agreed. My ex tried the same thing a few months back. Sent a long email about how he'd changed, how he'd learned from his mistakes, how he wanted another chance. I didn't respond. Because here's what I've learned. People don't change that much. Someone who could lie to you for 8 months while you trusted them completely, that's not a mistake. That's a character flaw. And you can't fix character. Last month, I ran into them together. My ex and Veronica, at a grocery store. They were shopping like a couple. Him pushing the cart, her checking her phone. When they saw me, they both froze. I just smiled, nodded, and kept walking. I didn't owe them my rage anymore. I didn't owe them anything. Later in my car, I thought about how strange it was. 2 people who'd destroyed so much, just buying milk and bread like normal people. Like they hadn't torn apart 2 families for 8 months of sex and secrets. But that's the thing about betrayal. It's mundane. It happens in regular houses on regular streets. It's not dramatic or tragic. It's just selfish people making selfish choices and expecting everyone else to deal with the consequences. My kids ask sometimes if I'm lonely. I tell them the truth. Sometimes, yes. But being lonely is better than being lied to. They seem to understand that. We've built a good life, the 3 of us. We have movie nights and game nights. We cook dinner together. We talk about their day. We're honest with each other. And that's the biggest change. We value honesty now, all of us, because we've seen what happens when people lie. It's been 2 years since that phone call from Philip. 2 years since my world fell apart and then slowly rebuilt itself into something better. I'm not the same person I was. That woman who trusted blindly, she's gone. In her place is someone who asks questions, who trusts but verifies, who knows that people are capable of terrible things, even people you love. It's a harder way to live. More cynical, maybe, but also safer. I protect myself now. I protect my kids, and I don't apologize for it. Because the truth is, my best friend didn't just say my husband was probably stressed. She knew exactly why he was stressed. She was the reason. And when her husband asked if I knew about them, he gave me the truth that everyone else had been hiding. Sometimes I think about thanking Philip for that, for caring enough about the truth to show me, for not leaving me in the dark like everyone else seemed content to do. But I think he knows. We both know what it's like to be the last one to find out, to realize that everyone around you knew you were being played. It changes you, makes you harder, more careful, less willing to give people the benefit of the doubt. Is that better? I don't know, but it's real. And after years of living in a lie, real is all I want. My daughter starts high school next year. My son is in middle school. They're good kids despite everything, maybe because of everything. They know their father loves them, even if he's not good at showing it. They know their mother will always tell them the truth, even when it's hard. And they know that family isn't just about blood. It's about who shows up, who keeps their promises, who chooses you every single day. Their father didn't choose us. He chose an affair, chose lying, chose himself, but I chose them, every time. And I always will. That's the story. That's what happened when my best friend said my husband was probably just stressed. She wasn't wrong. He was stressed. Stressed about keeping his lies straight. Stressed about getting caught. Stressed about maintaining 2 relationships at once. Just not the kind of stress she'd meant. And when it all came crashing down, when the truth finally came out, the only thing that surprised me was how many people had known. The neighbors who'd seen his car at Veronica's house. The mutual friends who'd seen them together at restaurants. The co-workers who'd covered for his fake business trips. Everyone knew. Everyone except Philip and me. But we know now. And we're better for it. Stronger for it. Freer for it. Because the truth, no matter how painful, is always better than a comfortable lie. Always. There are moments still when I'm caught off guard by the loss. Not of my husband, but of the life I thought I had. The illusion of stability. The comfort of trust. I'll be at the grocery store and see a couple laughing together. And for just a second, I'll remember what it felt like to believe someone completely. To not have that voice in the back of my mind whispering questions. My therapist says this is normal. That I'm grieving not just the marriage but the person I was before. The naive woman who thought love was enough. Who thought marriage vows meant something unbreakable. You're grieving your innocence, she told me. And that's okay. But some days I don't want it to be okay. I want to be angry. I want to scream at every person who saw them together and said nothing. At Veronica's sister who must have known. At my husband's coworkers who covered for him. At myself, for all the signs I ignored. My mom called last week. She'd heard through family friends what had happened. We don't talk often. She left when I was 15, started a new family. But her voice was different this time. Softer. I'm sorry this happened to you, she said. Thanks, I said, unsure where this was going. I know what it's like, she said. Your father wasn't faithful either. I just didn't have the courage to leave. This was news to me. All those years I'd thought she abandoned us for no reason. Turns out she'd been running from the same kind of pain I was experiencing now. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Because you were a child, she said. And I didn't want you to hate your father. I would have understood. Maybe, she said. But understanding and forgiving are different things. You're doing better than I did. You're protecting your children, teaching them that some things aren't acceptable. After we hung up, I sat with that conversation for a long time, thinking about patterns, about how betrayal echoes through generations, about breaking cycles. My ex called tonight. First time in months, said he wanted to apologize. I was selfish, he said. I wasn't thinking about what I was destroying. No, I agreed. You weren't. I miss you, he said. I miss us. There is no us, I said. There hasn't been for a long time. You killed that when you chose to lie every single day for 8 months. People make mistakes. This wasn't a mistake, I said. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk. This was a calculated deception. You looked me in the eye and lied. Every single day. I know, he said quietly. And I'm sorry. I'm sure you are, I said. But sorry doesn't undo the damage. It doesn't give me back the year I spent thinking I was crazy for feeling like something was wrong. It doesn't fix what you did to our children. They seem fine, he said defensively. Because I got them into therapy the second everything fell apart, I said. Because I've spent 2 years rebuilding their sense of security. Not because they're fine. They're coping. He was quiet for a long moment. I really did love you, he finally said. No, I said. You loved the idea of me, the convenience of me, but you didn't love me enough to be honest. You didn't love me enough to choose me. Can we ever be friends? He asked. No, I said. We can be civil co-parents, but friends? That requires trust. And you destroyed that. After we hung up, I poured a glass of wine and sat on my back porch. The house is quiet. The kids are asleep. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something close to contentment. Not happiness exactly, but peace. The kind of peace that comes from knowing you're exactly where you're supposed to be. That the hard part is over. That whatever comes next, you can handle it. Tomorrow my son has a soccer game, my daughter has a piano recital, and I'll be there for both, taking pictures and cheering them on. Not because I have to, but because I want to. Because this is my life now. Not the life I planned. Not the life I thought I'd have, but mine. Fully, completely, honestly, mine. And that's worth more than any lie I was living before.